So passion leads to discipline, and discipline builds expertise. Expertise builds confidence, and confidence extends to faith.
Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. Thank you so much for investing your time and your energy into tuning in. We have Craig Cook. He is an entrepreneur, author of Business Kung Fu, and doctor of Chinese energetic medicine. He scaled a digital marketing agency from $1,300 to eight figures and now blends leadership with energy medicine and Qigong. Craig, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. Really happy to be here. Excited to have this discussion with you.
Yes, absolutely. And I love asking everyone my signature question, and you can answer this in any way. It's who are you and who are you not?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because a lot of people right off the bat they'll attach labels to who they are, but I'd like to start with who I'm not because yeah, sure, CEO, entrepreneur, all that stuff, but I'm not that at my core. Those are just labels. CEO, entrepreneur, doctor of Chinese energetic medicine. Those are just all labels. Who am I truly? I like to state it as I'm a unique divine expression of the creator experienced as joy. That's who I am.
Wow, that is so powerful. And when do you feel like you kind of came into that awareness? Is that something that you knew early on, or is that more of a recent awareness of yours?
I'd say it's more recent. It's within the past few years here. Yeah, probably about 3 years ago. I just kind of just hit me like, oh yeah, that's it. That's who I
Yeah,
am.
beautiful. And I always love to touch just briefly on what life was like before who you are today, before the full expression, the full spectrum of
Mhm.
who you are. So, what was life like before Qigong and before all the other amazing things that you do?
Well, life was full of stress, that's for sure. But in some ways it's good. There's a lot of great things along my journey that I'm very blessed. But there's a ton of stress, a lot of overcoming, and just a variety of challenges, um, unhealthy habits that just impacted my health as an individual. Had to turn that around. So it was interesting. It was just full of challenges and a lot of overcoming those challenges.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like building the marketing agency and scaling it from 1,300? I mean, $1,300 seems so low. So what was happening?
Yeah. So I'm going to rewind the clock here. So I'm going to really date myself. I started my company as a digital first company way back in 1996, the 20th century. So I call it the ancient days of the internet. Because everything was like really brand new. A lot of people are like, inner what? What is that? Yeah, so there was a lot of education, and yeah, I had $1,300 and a computer. A couple of friends and I started the company. We each threw in $1,300. And it was really a struggle because it was a brand new industry. There wasn't a lot of people that really knew about it. So not a lot of contacts and a big network, no funding, just really grinding it out the old-fashioned way. Um, the first 5 years was brutal. It was really brutal. Just 80, 90-hour work weeks, no vacations, even holidays, working on holidays. But that's what it took back then.
Mhm.
It's just an interesting time, interesting portion of my journey. But it's all good. Again, I am who I am today because of my journey.
Yeah, two things. One, people, I think still it's so hard to kind of shift our perspective on this or deprogram from this program, which is the harder we work, the more we work, the more money we will make. But that wasn't the case. It sounds like the revenue or the profits were still where they were despite all the hours of work that you were putting in.
Yeah. It just took time to get traction going, and there's the investment of effort. Anything worthwhile takes time and effort. It's There's really no overnight success. Everyone that sees an image of someone who's successful, they might think, oh, they are lucky, or oh, that just happened for them. They don't see the big huge iceberg underneath the water. They just only see the little tip. of the success, right? But all the work that goes into it. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah, amazing. And what inspired you to even start writing business kung fu?
Yeah, so my very first passion in life was books. As soon as I could start reading, I always had a book in front of my face. And when I was a teenager, I thought, oh, it'd be cool to write a book one day. I didn't know about what. And then fast forward to 2011, I just suddenly was hit with the concept, oh, business kung fu. That's what I'll write about. And the whole concept came about because I studied Chinese Kung Fu when I was 17 to 25, really intensely. And I started my company at 25. And I took principles that I learned from martial arts and applied it to running the company, even aspects of how it was structured, of course, mindset and discipline. So the book is chronicles my entrepreneurial journey and then provides these parallels between martial arts and the world of business. And I came up with the idea in 2011, but it took me 12 years to get it done.
I feel like that just means it's a really well thought out, intentional piece of work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that it took the time that it did because it's a much better book than it would have been if I released it a decade ago.
Right, right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And what are one of the martial arts principles that translates into business or entrepreneurship? Is there an example you can give us?
Sure. There's I can share many, but let me just start with one. Chapter one is all about building a foundation. And in martial arts, it all starts with building a foundation where you have to learn certain uh, stances, blocks, punches, kicks, just basics, and then some basic stepping, footwork, movement before you ever get into like sparring or fighting. You know, when I first started learning, I was like, okay, cool, cool, but when do I get to fight? It's like not yet. But when? Later. Okay, when? There's this little impatient aspect to it. And the same thing with business. You start getting into business, and you have your certain skill set going in, and whatever your expertise and your passion is, and creating a business to start with. And there's a lot to being an entrepreneur. Any entrepreneur understands this, but people that are thinking about entrepreneurship, there's your initial skill set, but you need to really establish a foundation, communication, how to communicate effectively in written format, in oral speaking, accounting principles, selling, marketing. Everyone is in the sales and marketing business if they're an entrepreneur. Even if you don't think you like to sell, you have to be able to sell. So there's all these foundational aspects that you have to build upon in being an entrepreneur and being in the business. So that's one example.
That's so great. And what's another one in the book or just another one in general?
Sure, sure. So this is in chapter one too. I have a model for success called the five elements of success. And it's really through the entrepreneurial journey. I like to refer to it as like it's like we're on our own little hero's journey. And we have these five elements that come into play for our success journey. And this is inspired by Chinese five element theory, which is an ancient philosophy, coming out of the Chinese culture thousands of years ago. And there's five elements: fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And those elements operate in cycles and have relationships with each other. And they have positive and negative impacts on each other. But through my studies of Kung Fu and also of medical Qigong, I was inspired to create this success framework. So I identified five elements that start to say it can start anywhere, but I like to start with passion. So passion leads to discipline, and discipline builds expertise. Expertise builds confidence, and confidence extends to faith. And it's a cycle that there's this generative cycle where each of the elements, the potential for each element expands and you fulfill the potential of each of those elements. So there's this generative cycle as you go through, as you're building and fulfilling potential. But based on our mindset, we could actually go in reverse the destructive cycle where things start to diminish and each of those elements are impacted. And then with these relationships, that each of the elements have with each other, there could be positive or adverse impacts based on the conditional state. If an element is in balance, because it's all about balance at the end of the day, or is there an excess condition or a deficient condition? So, for example, I like to use the um, element of confidence. It's an easy one that people can relate to. If there's an excess state of confidence, it creates arrogance, right? And that's something that is really dangerous because a lot of people, they're not even aware of it. They don't even realize the arrogance. And that can have an adverse impact on discipline because when someone is so full of ego and full of themselves, they think that they don't need to continue working on themselves, their skills, their craft, and the discipline starts to fade, which then is going to impact, it just throws everything out of balance.
Right, right. And I can imagine it impacts the result and the integrity of the work or the art or whatever the
Yes.
thing is.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So it's a great model. A lot of people resonate with that when I talk about it. So yeah, and that's chapter one too.
I love it. Wow, that sounds like an incredible book. Yeah, as soon as you start to describe that the five cycles, I believe it was, um,
Mhm.
I recognize it, right? Like I recognize those themes and people that I look up to, my mentor, myself. Like I can see that cycle.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it looks like right there. So you can see the diagram, that star diagram. Those are the different relationships, and then there's the arrows that represent the cycles, that generative cycle or the diminishing cycle. So yeah, and five element theory is really
Mhm.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very deep. That's a whole topic in and of itself. Um, and it just kind of just hit me one day when I was having a conversation actually with my first martial arts instructor, and all of a sudden it just like hit me. Yeah, those five elements is like a very intuitive, inspirational moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think frameworks are so important. I know we're kind of zooming out here, or at least I
Mhm.
am with this comment, and but I think it's important because sometimes we may not understand how useful or significant a framework can be until we actually need it or until we try and we're like, oh, that actually gave me some guidance on where I was at. It helped me, it allowed me to increase my awareness around my business or myself or my leadership. What are your thoughts on that too? Just whatever framework, whether it's Craig's framework from his book
Yeah.
or whether it's someone else's framework, just frameworks are so helpful. That's my belief about life. What do you think?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I like to think in terms of framework. So, my sometimes I refer to it as a model, five elements of success model, but you can view it as a framework. And the way I like to define frameworks, that there's a structure and it's like a guiding structure, but there's freedom to scale, to flex, right? And one thing that I developed in my company was called the RI5 process framework. And that was a whole delivery process that started with discovery and then insight and design and build and optimization. So there was like five steps, but it was a framework. And so there was a lot of freedom in between each of these five steps to kind of improvise in a sense, based on the scenario and to scale it for much bigger projects or scale it down for smaller engagements. So frameworks, I think, are phenomenal, and I agree. People should really look at frameworks and adopt it into whatever their endeavor is.
Yeah, beautiful. And what is the gift? I know everyone might get something from your book, but what is you maybe the most common gift or perspective of transformation that people tend to receive from your book?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I wrote the book, I really intended it. Um, to be a business book. It's my entrepreneurial journey and et cetera, et cetera. But when I released it and I started getting a lot of comments and reviews back, a lot of people started telling me like, "Well, not only is it a great business book, it's a great roadmap for life." And I was like, "Wow!" I kind of made me take a step back. I was like, "Yeah, okay, I can see that. I understand that." And I wasn't really intentional. It's just an interesting thing that kind of came about from it. So to answer your question, it's really essentially at its core, it's a mindset book. and it's a mindset book that helps you overcome your challenges.
Yeah, that's amazing because I think business struggles are mindset struggles,
Yes, yes,
aren't they?
actually, they are. I actually lead an entrepreneurial forum. Once a month, we have our meeting. I just had it this morning, and we started with mindset discussion, and it was exactly what you just said, 100%.
Yeah, mindset. And what is since we're talking about mindset challenges and the book being, uh, giving the gift of shifting perspective and mindset, uh, what are one of the challenges that most people deal with in business and entrepreneurship and leadership?
Ooh. There could be quite a few, but I think one very, very common one is fear. Fear paralyzes us, and fear could be rooted from a number of different frameworks or thinking
Hmm.
thoughts, what's creating that fear in the first place. But fear, and it's interesting because fear, the energy of fear resides in the kidneys from a Chinese energetic medicine perspective. And the kidneys is responsible for our vitality and for our drive to move forward. So like when our kidneys are depleted, there's that aspect of being stuck and being paralyzed and not moving forward, depleted, tired, right? So it's all connected. But I'd say fear is a really big one. It could be fear of success. It could be fear of being presenting to a group to try and sell a big contract. It could be fear of some sort of conflict, inner office conflict, and addressing the situation. Fear of leadership. Fear of losing a client, a fear of losing an employee, fear of dealing with this vendor. That what if they get it wrong? Like there's just so many aspects of fear that need to be overcome.
Yeah, yeah. That's just it's so important to really bring that to awareness because once we work through it, I feel like all fears kind of start with awareness, like
Mhm.
but it doesn't but awareness doesn't have to include fear if that makes any sense. I haven't really said that out loud before.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. And,
Okay.
and the way in my model that I just referred to, that five elements of success, when we have a deficient state of confidence, we talked about the excess state. Well, the deficient state is actually where fear sets in. Yeah, because that lack of confidence, you're afraid. You're because again, that energy of confidence resides in the kidneys also. So when you have that fearful state, it detracts from that energy. But if you have that awareness and you can be in balance and you have a balanced state of confidence, not excess, but not deficient and staying in
Mhm.
fear, but you can have awareness and get to a state of confidence, then you can move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. For those who may not know, what is Chinese energetic medicine?
So, Chinese energetic medicine, another term for it is medical Qigong. So, Qigong is an ancient practice that also originated in China. It's thousands of years old. It originated as a shamanic practice, actually, thousands and thousands of years ago. Who knows the real timeline, right? But what I really admire about the Chinese culture is how they've taken thousands of years of experimentation of working with energy. Cultures from around the world work with energy. But one thing the Chinese culture has done is tons of experimentation and documentation of that experimentation, and from that documentation, figuring out a systematic approach, defining protocols of working with energy to address certain conditions that people have, and they like to address it in, like, say, the three bodies: the physical body, the energy body, and the spirit body. And it's just a phenomenal, comprehensive systematic approach to working with energy to have positive outcomes at the end of the day. And qigong could be done where you have a practitioner like myself that does the energy medicine work on someone, that's guiding and directing qi outside and inside the body, following these protocols that is running energy in very specific patterns. But then there's also the self-cultivation work where you can do qigong exercises, and it's like you can think of it in terms of a dynamic meditation, meaning that you're actually moving with um, integrating the mind, body, and breath. And it looks very Tai Chi-ish. but a little more simple because Tai Chi has the martial applications to it. But very simple breathing, movement, exercises, integrating the mind, body, and breath. But then there's also static meditations, just standing, sitting, laying down. So it's really comprehensive and very powerful for, I like to have three categories where there's healing, self-transformation, and then energetic optimization.
Amazing. And how did medical Qigong help you personally with any health challenges?
Hmm. Well, I would say in 2014, it had a profound impact on me. Uh, I had a physical health challenge, which I can get to, but at the time, it was much more mental and emotional from all the stress and pressures and demands of running a really fast growing company. I think it was the second year of being on the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing private companies in the country. So there was a lot going on, a lot of great stuff, but all the demands of employees, clients, vendors, juggling family life, it's a lot. And I just wasn't myself. Um, Definitely not aware of who I am, right? Yeah, that what I talked about earlier, experienced as joy. I was like the opposite of that, just super stressed out, getting triggered all the time, just not myself. And a friend of mine referred me to this Qigong practitioner, and I said, "Wow!" I looked at his website. Oh, that's interesting. He knows Qigong, and I was familiar with Qigong from my martial arts days, from Chinese Kung Fu. That I was familiar with the martial Qigong. I actually knew some Qigong, but the martial type. So I was like, wow, I was intrigued. I'll go check him out, see if he's the real deal, because wouldn't that be something? And it's funny because how everything works. The divine is so sophisticated. It was just divine timing and divine guidance because he just happened to be on my street, the same street that my office was on, and he was less than 5 minutes away on the exact same street. Like if he was like a half hour away, I'd have been like, oh, cool, but I don't have time, right? I would have made some excuse, but there was no excuse because he was less than 5 minutes away. So I went and had an amazing experience the first time, and went back and went to see him once a month for like 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, I just felt so much more centered and balanced, like myself again. And then that from that moment moving forward, he asked me, "Hey, do you want to learn how to do this work?" And I said, "Absolutely." I was just so into it, and I started learning under him. So I was running my company during the day and doing work at night, and then fitting that in class once a week, and then doing the work on people, and just juggling everything, right? But it was okay because I was much more myself again, and I was able to be have this centered, balanced state of energy that allowed me to perform at optimal levels, which helped me achieve even higher levels of success in the subsequent years that followed.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when people hear things like that, they think that we are high in the sky on pie, or it
I
just
know,
doesn't
right?
sound realistic, you
Yeah,
know? So, but how is it possible? How I've experienced this for in many seasons of my life. It hasn't been like super consistent, just because I have a lot going on.
yeah,
But yeah. So can we unpack that a little bit? How is that possible?
sure. So in that state that I was in, I wasn't taking care of myself, right? So I had bad habits when it came to lack of physical exercise, sedentary lifestyle, just sitting at a desk, day, and then sitting on the couch at night, working too. So not active, bad eating habits, bad sleep, bad hydration. So there's the physical aspect that wasn't good, right? And that affects your energy also. Everything's connected, the physical body, the energy body, and the spirit body, right? So my through bad physical habits, my energy body was in being impacted, and then the spirit body, which you can think of the spirit as your thoughts and emotions, your heart and mind coherence. So that's being impacted as well. And through all the interactions with people, the stress and pressures affecting the spirit, which then also impacts the energy, which then impacts the physical body because it goes both directions, is this compounding effect. And once I was able to really get my energy balanced and centered, it just started helping everything else. I just started feeling better. I was sort of able to move forward and then start taking better care of myself physically. and just that heart and mind coherence, which is much more in balance too. Um, and I didn't find out until a couple of years later that I actually had diabetes, but it made sense from the way I'd been feeling since probably around 2010 or so, just always tired, crashing on the couch at night, and um, foggy brain, et cetera, et cetera. So my doctor, which I see a naturopath doctor, she had told me if I hadn't been doing Qigong, my numbers would have been a lot worse, actually. So she said it's a good thing that you've been doing that because that's, definitely is helping. But I had to really attack that from a whole other level because there's all these, the better diet, sleep, hydration, activity, strength training, steps, all that's in addition to the qigong practice enabled me to reverse that condition 100% without any sort of pharmaceutical drugs. It's possible.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Reversing diabetes without pharmaceutical drugs, right? Because you didn't know at the time, it sounds like you didn't even know that you had
I
diabetes,
didn't
even though
know.
you
Yeah.
probably had all the symptoms.
It made
You,
sense once I found out. I was like, oh,
right,
okay.
right.
Yeah, yeah. And now I feel phenomenal. I feel like I did in my 20s, actually, with the same amount of
Amazing.
energy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
It's
look great, vitality wise.
oh,
You
thank
know,
you, thank you.
I always look at everyone's energy and just vitality, and it's, I use my psychic senses, or they're
Mm,
always they're on,
sure.
just to kind of sense someone's vitality, and I could totally feel it, and it's amazing. I don't know if I've tried Qigong. I've been interested in it for some time, but I just haven't had the opportunity. My next question for you, is there a difference between Qigong and medical Qigong, or is it the same thing?
Great question. So traditionally, there's three branches of Qigong: martial, medical, and spiritual. So I'm versed in all three. In my early days, I learned more of the martial, which there's like health and wellness aspects to it as well. But I was fortunate enough, after I studied under my first instructor for about 6 years, and then he moved to Texas, I then enrolled in this doctorate program for Chinese energetic medicine. And Dr. Johnson is the gentleman that ran that program, and he's a legend in the space. Really responsible for bringing qigong up in the United States, and he's versed in all three branches, and that's what he taught. So uh, those are the three, but in the system I learned, it's all connected and it all works together. Because interestingly enough, even certain approaches to treating people with medical qigong can have some martial um, movements that are tied to it, as far as like the hand movements, as far as certain patterns of how you move your hand, and the intention, and just depending upon the like cysts, for example, it's very martial and how you actually go to shrink those.
Oh, very interesting. So there's in Qigong, there's specific techniques for physical health conditions. Is that
Yes,
right?
specific techniques for physical health conditions, specific techniques or protocols for more mental, emotional,
Mhm.
energetic, like chronic fatigue, for example. There's specific protocols that how you start the energy and run it up and down the body in a very specific pattern. It kind of looks like one of the protocols, it looks like a tuning fork. Is this, I call it a tuning fork. That's what it looks like. It's not what it's really called, but it's just what I call it. Um, so yeah, and then from the spiritual standpoint, when you're talking about your psychic senses and so forth, that's a whole aspect of Qigong, which is really awesome, that it works with your energetic anatomy. Just like we have a physical anatomy, we have the energetic anatomy. So it can help enhance your perceptual awareness when it comes to your intuitive senses, which is up in the upper dantian, is what the Qigong terminology is, and then more the empathic perceptions, which is the middle dantian, and then the kinesthetic perceptual awareness, which is in the lower dantian. So as you go through certain types of meditations that are designed to enhance those three dantians and the energetic fields, it could really start to align your energy centers, and start to help you develop so that you become that satellite dish in a sense to receive information.
Yeah, absolutely. So, another thing I wanted to address is so many people think that they will address their health once they're successful. They will start working out once they're successful. They'll do the Qigong or the Kundalini yoga or the retreats or like the rest or the naps or like whatever it is. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Does it work? And why should we probably start to look at that differently?
Yeah, that's a great topic. Yeah, that's the way I used to think. Oh yeah, once I have this, then I'll do that, right? Unfortunately, you put yourself in this box and you don't take any time towards your own self-care, and it's really at your own detriment. Over the long term, it'll eventually catch up to you. That's what happened to me. That's why I came down with that condition of diabetes, because I was so 1,000% in and give to everybody else, but not taking care of myself, right? So there's a quote in my book that's from me, is to be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime. Uh, Meaning that in order to, it's what I said earlier, the way I felt, but now the way I feel today in comparison, now I have the energy to be of service for the rest of my life. I'm good. But if I went back to the way I was, where I was like, oh, let me do all this stuff and before I have this, then I'm going to find myself right back to where I was, unhealthy, out of energy, and not being able to be of service. And what good is that, right? So I strongly encourage people to prioritize their self-care. There's always time for it. Saying that you don't have time is the same thing as saying I don't want to. That's an old Taoist
Right.
principle. Yeah, right. It's all a
That's a
matter
good
of priority.
reminder.
It's
Yeah.
all priority. So you got to prioritize your self-care so that you can actually have the endurance, um, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to have that spiritual walk too, to enhance everything, so that you can um, last for the long term. Because if you're going to burn out, you're not going to achieve what you're wanting to achieve anyways.
Yeah, it's so counterproductive. Even though we've been taught differently,
Yes.
just out of tradition, parents, just the
Yeah.
workforce, like whatever it is, especially,
Mhm.
when I was a realtor, the lifestyle there, it
Oh,
was
yeah.
it was like
Hard work.
sacrifice your health and like win, win,
Mhm.
win. And
Yeah.
I think I've heard you say something to the effect of success means nothing if you sacrifice your health. And let me know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and success can mean a lot of different things to people. And yeah, traditionally in our society, the success has a certain image attached to it, like, oh yeah, money and the big house and all these things, material things, right? And that's sure, that stuff is great and you can appreciate all that. But success is different things to different people. Relationships, how you spend your time. There's all these aspects to success. And what good is it if you're not able to be healthy to enjoy all that success? I'm going to misquote it here, but there's that saying out there, people that are healthy have all kinds of problems, but people that are sick have one problem, right? Because that's how important your health is. And if you can't um, have your health, yeah, it's just going to be really hard to achieve that success. I'm not sure. I kind of digress to the health thing again. I'm not sure if I answered your question properly, but
Yeah, no, I think you just added more context, and I
yeah,
think that's what I was looking for. Just because we've been like some of us were so fixated in how the world has told us to act and
yeah,
work and behave, and
yeah,
so rifting on this I think is helpful. Just rifting on it, whatever
yeah,
comes to our mind, because we're still trying to undo that thought pattern, right? That those
yes,
negative neural pathways that have been wiring and firing for however old we are, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
yes,
It just really
yes.
takes time to change that.
Mhm.
Interesting stuff. Do you have and what I love about you, Craig, is you're passionate about health, wellness, consciousness. energetics, and business. And time flew by in this episode and in this
Yeah.
conversation. So I feel like we like barely scratched the surface, but and you could riff if there's if there's anything else, any other message that you want to share with us about consciousness and business.
Yeah, I feel it's really, and thank you for all those comments. I feel it's really important to encourage a heart-centered approach to leadership. That's how I led my company. Um, and you can be successful with that approach. The old model that's antiquated of lead by fear. Yeah, that's that old 20th century that's done with. There's so much opportunity out there for people today. They don't have to put up with that, right? Um, but having a much more heart-centered approach where you have consideration and empathy for others and you lead by example and you actually care about people and treat them with kindness and respect and as fellow human beings, that's the way to lead a team. I really was intentful on proving that it could be done and starting a company with $1,300 and being on the Inc. 5000 list 5 years in a row, only 7% of companies ever achieve that. That's what I was told by them. Um, and then being able to have a successful exit. And then also we won best places to work 4 years in a row, at the same time of being on the Inc. 5000 list. It's all possible. It can be done. And I think that's really important for the leaders of today to embrace that because everything's changing and shifting and it's possible and that's why I'm very passionate about bringing in the energetics with the professional world, especially in business and entrepreneurship, because it's sorely needed based on my past experience.
Yeah, incredible. And that is so inspiring to know what is actually possible and that we could actually get the transformation, we can get the results, we can probably surpass what we think is possible when we really start to have this comprehensive perspective on life, health, wealth, consciousness, business, all the things.
Yes, all the things. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So good. So if this conversation resonates with you, please connect with Craig Cook. We have his links here in the description. So just scroll down. You'll see, I think, about 4 links: Instagram, Facebook, the Energy Medicine website, and his other main site as well. What is one powerful way that people can work with you or connect with you deeper?
Sure. So by going either to ctenergymedicine.com or craigcook.com, you'll see I have programs that people can enroll in. I think that's a great way for people to engage with me to learn the practice of Qigong, whether it's the intro for Qigong or the Qigong for business professionals. You have different programs, and those are live 12-week programs done over Zoom. And I just started doing it earlier this year, and it's great. I've been getting great feedback. People have been going through transformations. It's really fulfilling for me, and I feel that's just a great way for people to engage.
Wow, thank you so much. And thanks for offering that. Thanks for mentioning it. And thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. I really feel like it's so significant. I mean, we all have our own purpose, but this is one of the things that I feel is moving the needle in the collective. So thank you for that. And thank you for being on the show. Oh, I almost forgot. Do you have a powerful quote or a book recommendation for us?
Oh, sure. It's funny. In my book, Business Kung Fu, this morning, I actually started the entrepreneur forum with a quote from my book. Um, Things are only hard if you make them hard. It's another Taoist proverb.
I love that. One
Yeah,
more time for the people in the back.
things are only hard if you make them hard.
Mm.
Very short and simple, but if you really think about it and really ponder that, it has very deep meaning.
Beautiful. I'm going to write that down as soon as we end our conversation. That's a new one for me, and I love it.
Cool.
So, thank you so much for your wisdom, Craig, your time, and your energy. I really do appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor to host this conversation. So please connect with Craig. Again, all of his information is here in the description. If that book resonates with you, like just listen to your soul, listen to your intuition, and share this episode with one friend or family member, just one. I'm sure you've already thought about this person, or maybe you have already spoken to them today. So all you have to do is share this episode with them. I'm sure they will greatly appreciate it for all the wisdom that's here in this episode. So thank you everyone for tuning in once again. Namaste and have a